All right, go ahead, man.
Well, one thing I would like to have the honor and privilege to say about Neil Seldman, who I've known for years and years and has been a mentor and inspiration for the work that I've done with regard to materials management and waste diversion, is that I think of Neil as the Dr. Martin Luther King of solid waste. So with
Well,
that,
I must say that I only cover one issue where Mana's career has covered the waterfront. So praise from Mana is praise indeed. Thank you.
And I'm Joel Tyner. I'm a former Dutchess County legislator, and thank you, Mana. Mana is no slouch yourself. Mana Joe Green. How many terms have you been elected to the Ulster County Legislature?
I'm starting my 5th term.
And how many years have you been environmental director for Hudson River Sloop Clearwater?
21.
And that's amazing. We have Pam Lovinger in the house. My mom, Judy Malmstrom, is here. Doreen Tignanelli, who forwarded an email to me from Joanna Fowler of Mothers Out Front and the Dutchess County Progressive Action Alliance. So I think it was maybe December 2008. I was the environmental committee chair of the county legislature, and somehow I think I found out from Laura Haight of NIPERG about a zero waste conference in Albany. And I missed, I think, the morning, but I got there for the last few hours in the afternoon. And I think I was able to hear Paul Connett and Neil Seldman. And Neil Seldman is, as Mana said, basically the father of the recycling movement in the country, and president of the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. I don't know if you're still president or just of the Waste to Wealth initiative.
No, we switched from a presidential corporate setup. We now have 2 co-directors, and I am not one of them, happily, but I am still on the board of directors of the Institute, and I focus on waste, recycling, and economic development.
And Neil is just absolutely amazing. If you go to ILSR.org, that's the website for Institute for Local Self-Reliance, all this stuff is there. And Neil was nice enough to come speak in the legislative chambers, in the Dutchess County Legislature's chambers back in early 2009. We got a resolution passed unanimously. Actually, believe it or not, we had a Democratic majority, but it was, I think, 13, 11, and 1. All 25 legislators voted for a zero waste resolution asking for Dutchess County to help draw down some zero waste stimulus funds from the Obama stimulus packages. And Neil was nice enough to speak at Vassar College, and so I'm gonna be quiet on that and just let Neil go. He's you know, the sad thing is that for years and decades, that was back, 12, 13 years ago. Neil has always been willing to, as long and a number of other zero waste experts from across the country have been willing to, for pennies on the dime, for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, answer a call for an RFP to do a true zero waste analysis and recommendations and report for Dutchess County. And Dutchess County has never done that. Dutchess County government has never done that. As Joanna Fowler of Mothers Out Front and Dutchess County Progressive Action Alliance points out, what Mana Joe Green has in Ulster County is amazing. The Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency, with the real food waste composting effort, just puts Dutchess County's Resource Recovery Agency to shame. And the last thing I'll say is this: please mark on your calendars Sunday, April 10th, that afternoon, because of Neil Seldman, I know a guy named Mike Ewall from the Energy Justice Network, energyjustice.org. And Mike and Neil work really closely together. Mike has crunched the numbers. He's gotten some fairly recent data as the emissions from the Dutchess County incinerator in Poughkeepsie. He's going to get even more recent data. He's on a working vacation now. And so Mike Ewall is going to do a little webinar Zoom thing with us Sunday, April 10th, that afternoon. So I'm going to shut up on that. And Neil, go ahead. I think I sent you the PDF of posts, and anybody who lives in Dutchess County, you basically have until midnight tonight or midnight tomorrow to make your comments on the proposed solid waste management plan for the next 10 years. Doreen, you have your hand up. You want to say something before Neil goes?
Yeah. Yes, I did. And I'd like to thank you for putting this together, and Neil for participating on such short notice. I just wanted to say that part of the reason why there's only a few people on here as well connected as I am as to what's going on in Dutchess County, I only learned about this yesterday. And, there is a delivery system that Dutchess County has called Dutchess Delivery, and where, the county executive is always putting out, information for, their latest accomplishment and whatever. And when it came to this for public comment, I did not receive anything on the delivery system. So, and tomorrow is the last day for comment. And so, we are at a disadvantage here as far as, letting the public know on such short notice.
Thank you, Doreen. One more thing really quickly. I just wanted to say, Manna Jo Green did not have to come out several years ago. I hope she doesn't get mad at me for saying this, for saying that the Dutchess County incinerator should be shut down, but she did. And of course, Mike Ewald, and we did a press conference, Joanna Fowler was there. And so what's happened in Baltimore over the last several years, and Montgomery County is a game changer, because in Baltimore, the city council basically passed this game-changing legislation to make it just about virtually impossible for the incinerator in Baltimore to keep on operating. They have to really up their emission standards. And of course, there's been legal battles on that. And I'm sure, Neil, you're going to tell us about the Montgomery County executive, what he just decided to do in December is basically call for the incinerator to be shut down. We have Gina Klein joining us from the Dutchess County Progressive Action Alliance. All right, I'm going to shut up on that. Hi, Gina. Go ahead, Neil. It's all you. Your show.
Well, first of all, it's great to see old friends again. So it's lovely. I'm so glad you contacted me. I could have used a little more time to go through the report, but nonetheless, I'm very glad to be here. I also have continued to work in New York State. I work on the EPR bill with a lot of people. I work in Warren County, where we're developing a direct marketing program for small towns to send their clean recyclables directly to mills instead of all the very expensive mixed waste processing and so forth. And we're about to do a zero waste webinar with Tina Lieberman in the Albany capital region. That's probably going to be May or June, but we'll certainly keep everybody in touch. We're also going to be doing one in Ithaca, New York. Also, we'll get notice of when folks want that to happen. So I'm going to take 9 minutes now to go through the 10-year plan, which I did read. I'd like to go over it again, but here's my immediate response, and then we should talk about things. Again, these are just reading through the report. These are the things that jumped out to me. It calls for a composting plan within the next 5 years. Why 5 years? Composting plans take a few months. Implementation should begin immediately. It refers to the 1980 incinerator as a good thing that they did. In fact, if you look at the numbers from other communities, Mike Ewald can talk about this as well. And I want to underscore that Mike and I do work together. We worked on the Baltimore zero waste plan, the Montgomery County one, and we're working on others. Based on the data, I would say that building that incinerator cost the county and its citizens and businesses about $150 million more for solid waste disposal than they would have had to pay if they used garbage transfer systems, either rail or truck. The report goes on to say that landfilling and incineration are the only alternatives. That is poppycock. Zero waste is the alternative, and it costs less and produces much more. They complain about, they cite data saying that landfills are biggest polluters. Well, yeah, but if you have a program to keep your organics out of landfills, that there's no methane coming out and there's no leach. Well, there's leachate, but the leachate, most of the leachate is caused because organics going in are 90% water. So you take out the organics, you take out that pollution. They say that they can't use pay-as-you-throw because they have a hauler system. There are hauler pay-as-you-throw systems operating all across the country. You just make it a requirement of their permit that they have to offer that service. It's routine stuff. You're using single stream. It could be good, it could be bad, but I'm I'm suspicious that you're using a good single stream system because it goes to Republic, and Republic and Waste Management are notorious for building overly scaled, inefficient systems that don't even recover glass. Again, I would have to investigate that. It has, the report says there's a 44% recycling rate. I don't know what that means. There's no data on what that, no breakdown. Does that mean the ash that they're using in the landfill is covered? Is that recycled? I don't know. Okay, they say this, I had a good laugh, that they say that they've looked at new sources of information. They really haven't. First of all, they haven't talked to Mike Ewald. I'm kidding about that. But there are new technologies, new systems coming online. I'll just give you three, and of course we can talk about them. Mini MRFs. We're focused on Albany because the Albany MRF, which handles a lot of material from the whole area, not necessarily your area, obviously, but it's overscaled and overexpensive. People are paying over $100 plus from Warrensburg, New York, and Glens Falls. The shipping costs are over $100. It's crazy. So what we're doing is we're looking at a mini MRF, which costs one-fourth the amount. Operating costs are about one-fourth the amount. We're looking at curb sort, which I believe is being used in Ulster County, which we think is the most efficient way to collect materials from households. The curb sort is when instead of dumping all mixed stuff in the truck, the worker separates it on the truck with different compartments, and it costs more for collection. But when you get to processing, you're paying $40 a ton for processing instead of $120. So curb sort trucks, new trucks are coming in. They're electrified, all kinds of new stuff. And also there's this direct marketing phenomena. There are companies now that will come into your community, work with you to aggregate clean, source separated materials. They'll work through Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, churches, civic groups. They want the local government to participate. And the way it works is these scouting groups and civic associations get their members to aggregate material, sometimes on public property. And then the company that sponsors this at no cost to the city or the Boy Scouts picks it up and brings it to processors who need processors who need the material, because recycled material is needed for packaging with all the public requirements now, minimum content, etc. So these are three technologies which are not even discussed, three systems that are not even discussed. So I have to chuckle to myself that they say they're focused on new sources of information when they're really not. There should be a ban on yard debris, organics, recyclables from incineration. Wisconsin, Vermont, and there's one other state that has what is called universal recycling laws. You can't burn or bury anything that's recyclable or compostable. Okay, the main thing you look for in these reports are comparisons. What are you spending on waste to energy? And how many tons are you handling? What are you spending on recycling and so forth? So you can have a per ton comparison. Now, there's none of that data in here, so I can't analyze it, even if I had time. And my point is, if you take the amount of money they're spending on waste to energy, which is 90% of your budget, and the amount of materials it's handling, and you get a per ton cost. Do the same thing for recycling. And I bet a nickel you will find that your investments in recycling, reuse, composting will pay you back many, many more times than the money you're losing on burning garbage. The other thing that we learned in Montgomery County and Baltimore is that the cost of keeping these old systems, I believe your plant is over 30 years old, you're going to be facing, based on other data from plants the exact same age, you're going to be looking at about $75 to $125 million just to keep that incinerator, quote unquote, safe, according to emissions requirements from New York State. And I don't think New York State requirements are safe. So even if they want to keep burning, they're going to have to be investing a ton of money just to keep the plant going and have a reasonable amount of protection for air pollution. Ash pollution, they don't even consider. Ash is hazardous waste. and they're dumping it in landfills. They're doing all kinds of things with it. It's crazy. Okay, they say they want source reduction. They don't talk about source reduction. Source reduction is going to one of the several great nonprofit groups. One is called the Zero Waste Purchasing Program, Portia Sinnott. The other is our friend Alicia Culver. I forget the name of her group. There are a number of groups that do nothing but work with local government and show them how to procure what they want, paper, computers, police cars, that are the most environmental and the best investment for your money. I don't see any of that here. They're obviously not doing a lot of things that everyone else is doing. They're not telling us costs. We can't analyze anything. They are not well informed of what the state of the art is. So I would say, as a citizen group, you should register your feelings of shortcomings. And I did send you several comments, one from Diane Whitner, a zero waste businesswoman from Baltimore County. And I also sent you one from Carlos Sanchez, a young man, environmental and civic activist in Baltimore. And they recently gave critiques, citizen-based critiques of the plans that Baltimore County and Baltimore City presented. And that's the type of approach you have to list out your opposition, and then you organize to force your politicians to do something. Of course, nothing happens without organizing. I put my trust in Manna Green to teach us organizing. I'm not that I know there are other organizers on the call, but there's no response. There's nothing other than community organizing, talking to your neighbors, talking to lawyers, doctors, talking to the influence makers in your community, and sitting them down, grabbing them by the collar, just as they've done in Baltimore. The young people went to the universities, they went to the museums, and they said, look, you're going to be buying dirty energy. Do you want to do that? And they got all these independent groups, the school board, to cancel their order to buy energy from a garbage incinerator. So there are all kinds of organizing techniques. But I'll tell you the best one I ever heard. It was in, either Bedford, Mass or Lowell, Mass. BFI put in a proposal. This goes back 20 years, 30 years. BFI put in a proposal to build a 3,000 ton per day incinerator and told the town, you won't have to pay for garbage ever again. We'll take yours for free if you let us build this thing. And at the first reading, there had to be 2 readings in this city council. The vote was 8 to 1 to approve the 3,000 ton per day plant. And there were women, mostly women, all women, who were very sophisticated. One was a bond trader on Wall Street. The other was some kind of financial advisor. And they did their homework. And they went to the second reading and they said, this investment is ridiculous. And they concluded their presentation by saying, if you vote for this, I will never vote for you again, and my children will never vote for you again. At that very meeting, they took a vote, and it was 9-0 against the plant, and there is no plant. And that's the type of organizing that works. And so I'm available for questions, but I think it's mostly discussion amongst ourselves as to what the next organizing steps are. And of course, I'm too far away to know, so I would turn it over to Pamela and Manna, etc. And Doreen, of course.
Do you guys have any questions? I have a question. How did the people of Montgomery County convince? I guess there was a report that you and Mike collaborated on with some other folks, came out a year ago. And then from March last year through December last year, somehow during those 8 or 9 months, you guys convinced the county executive of Montgomery County to say, yeah, we're going to shut down the incinerator. How did you do that?
Well, first of all, the key agency here is the Sugarloaf Citizens Association. This is the community where the current incinerator is in the western part, unpopulated part of the county. And of course, those people got screwed. Everybody voted for candidates to close the incinerator, and then the candidates from the eastern side of the county changed their mind and screwed the western part of the county. So there's a lot of bitterness. The Sugarloaf people are terrific. We had Clean Water Action people on the committee. We had Sierra Club people, and of course, independent citizens. And at first, we put together, actually, I did a memo. 2 years later, we did a good technical report. And then that technical report, which I worked on with Mike, convinced the Mr. Elrich, the county executive. He was newly elected, Democrat, left-wing thinker, and he saw our reports. He showed us what his DEP, his Department of Environment, was sending him, saying that the incinerator was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he did not trust them. And he asked us to work for free, which we did for about 9 months, and produced a highly technical report. Mike wrote it, but a lot of other people worked on it, myself included. We did research, etc. We found haulers who were willing to take it to haulers to haul it away on truck, safe landfills at one half the cost. So Mr. Elrich, the county executive, asked us to write a report. How we know how to shut down the incinerator. There are legal things. He knows what to do. But what do you do then? And so what we're doing for him, starting this week, is we're showing him month to month, starting, let's say, April 1st, what has to happen each month, what new rules have to be passed, what programs have to be designed, and how implementation is going to happen for pay-as-you-throw, for comprehensive composting, for source reduction from the government. All these things are going to be laid out on a matrix, and each thing has to happen. And when enough of those things happen, they're going to pull the switch on the incinerator. We are very pleased that this is not only the position of the county executive, it's the position of the county council as well. So what we're anticipating is, again, there are always curves, as happened in Baltimore. As Joel said, we had that thing defeated, and then we got a lousy court decision because the people have deep pockets, and they will not die. They're corporations; they can't die. So we have to keep fighting, as we are in Baltimore. But obviously, in Montgomery County, we have strong allies from the county council and county exec. So we will be producing that plan. As I said, we have to produce it in 45 days, and we will make that plan available to all. And we think it's going to be a generic, obviously not all generic, has to be site specific, but we think it's a very clear way for citizen groups and their allies to use zero waste to shut down an incinerator. And of course, we'll share all of that with you all.
I was just about to Google the population of Montgomery County, but I've been talking too much.
No,
Mom, Doreen, Manna, Pam, Gina,
Yeah.
You guys go next.
Montgomery County is 950,000 people, largest jurisdiction in Maryland.
So it's about triple the population of Dutchess.
Yeah, Baltimore is 600,000, but there are zero waste plans for Bloomfield, Colorado, Fort Collins, many communities the same size. You guys are about 300,000 people up there, so there are plans for that amount of people.
Joel, if I may, unless Doreen's ready.
Manna, tell us the name of your cat.
Ruckus, because when he was a kitten, he always created a ruckus.
Well, that's a perfect pet for you, because you cause a ruckus.
You bet. I make good trouble. I just want to say, in Ulster County right now, we have been working for the last year on developing a zero waste plan. And we also put earmarked 75,000 in the capital improvement plan for this year to do a feasibility study to create a reuse innovation center in honor of John Wackman, who started repair cafes in this area. And it wouldn't just be for reuse. Basically, Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency is handling garbage and the mandated regulated recyclables and composting. And we do have, you know, a composting law, ban the bags, straws, styrofoam. But if you add up what the UCRA is doing, plus what the zero waste plan predicts, that's the implementation plan, but it's not the facilities. And then the Reuse Innovation Center would be the facilities for anything that the agency is not handling. And right now that includes things like C&D, mattresses, bulky items, etc. And we would be finding markets, always the highest and best use. But if they're, for example, mattresses that can't be reused, can be taken apart and the components can be recycled. And we don't necessarily have to have one facility in every county. So for certain materials, we're looking at regionalizing. And I'm hoping that this RFP for managing, for developing the feasibility study this year and implementing it next year, and that RFP will be going out shortly. It's just being finalized now. And then it will be built next year with the idea that we do want to site a landfill in Ulster County, but we want to divert 80 to 90% of the waste. And we believe that that's possible, emphasizing source separation. We have 19 transfer stations that all are doing something, but they could each be doing more. And also just instructing the haulers or self-haulers to put the non-recyclable material at the bottom, and then when they bring in a load, anything that would need to be pulled out, put that on the top so that it can be sorted easily. And you know, many ideas like that, and you know, modeling our facilities after existing facilities so that we can achieve the highest amount of waste diversion. Also, when you do C&D recycling and you pull the sheetrock out, which can be recycled, a landfill will be less onerous because the rotten egg smell comes from sheetrock degrading. So, you know, that's where we're at. We're hoping to create a model that'll be replicable, you know, and modified for each community in the Mid-Hudson region. But I just, in terms of an alternative, we have learned from Neil and from Mike Ewall and other leaders, Portia and so forth. And we're trying to put that all into a plan and a facility or facilities that will make that a reality, so that if we reduce odors, we reduce truckloads and volume, and anything that makes a landfill undesirable and turns it into an asset. We're also considering monofills, as they're considering in the Virgin Islands. For example, if there are certain kinds of plastics that are difficult to market now, but may be more marketable in the future, they could be put into a lined cell and not mixed in with the garbage. So those are some of the ideas that I just wanted to share. Thank you.
If I may respond very quickly, Ulster County is on it. It's terrific to see. 3 quick points. At your transfer stations, there's a new service fee thing happening thanks to Urban Ore in Berkeley, California. They have a contract. They're at the Berkeley transfer station. Actually, St. Vincent de Paul has the same contract in San Francisco. And these companies, they're both actually Urban Ore is for-profit, the other, St. Vincent's is not. They can pull out, they have the right to pull out recyclable, reusable stuff literally on its way from the truck to the big baler that's going to ship it off to landfill. And they get paid on a per ton basis, the same as it would cost the city to pay for the landfill, 47 bucks a ton. So you are incentivizing reuse by allowing a well-organized group to get that contract. That's one model. The other is that in Hawaii, they want their transfer stations to be zero waste education centers where you could drop off all the same things that Manager was talking about. So that's a second concept. And the third is there's a wonderful example called, the name of the group is the Reuse Corridor. And it's a network that serves the Central Appalachian region, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. And it does exactly what Manager described. This is a city, it's hundreds of miles, many towns. They have universities involved. I'll send you information. But what they do, they aggregate all their mattresses, all their electronic scrap from all these communities, and they send it together under one umbrella contract to a private company that deals with mattresses or electronic scrap. So they aggregate, and all the materials are used within their region. So it's an economic development program. And it's a perfect, in my mind, it's a perfect model for your part of the country to look at. And they're presenting on April 5th, there's I forget who's sponsoring it. It's the National Recycling Coalition is sponsoring it. I will send Joel and Mana, I have their emails. I'll send them the announcement. It's a free workshop on resource recovery parks. These are industrial parks devoted to companies that recycle, compost, and reuse. And Jacob Hanna from Reuse Corridor will be presenting. There'll be some other great presentations too, but I will get you the URL, and it's first of all, this is the latest and greatest information on what's going on, and obviously your waste management authority should be listening in. Who knows if they will? But Jacob will give a great description of how they aggregate stuff and use anchor institutions. They're also terrific at integrating federal money, state money, and local money, all for zero waste development. So that's my immediate response to Mana's excellent presentation. And I think Ulster County is on the right track. And I wish Dutchess would follow suit.
Amen. And that's one of the things that Joanna Fowler of Mothers Out Front at the Dutchess County Progressive Action Alliance pointed out in her email alert yesterday or the day before, that just Ulster County's Resource Recovery Agency puts the DCRA to shame. Just one thing real briefly, and then I want to hear from Doreen, my mom, and Pamela and Gina if they want to chime in. The one thing I wanted to add was you're talking about resource recovery parks. I remember, I think it was 2009, early that year, you introduced me to the phrase eco-industrial resource recovery park. And I remember it was committee day, and one member of the committee, Rob Weiss, sort of to the right of Attila the Hun, he's no longer in the Dutchess County legislature anymore, but he didn't vote for it. And then you were like, what's going on? Why? And so I think somehow I connected the two of you, and then it passed unanimously, right? I mean, it sailed out of committee just with one no vote. And I remember even back then in early 2009, this guy is super uber right-wing conservative guy, Rob Weiss, former county legislator for East Fishkill. And I remember even back then, 13 years ago, you and I helped get him jazzed on the concept of eco-industrial resource recovery parks. Yeah. I think back then they were saying it was a pipe dream or it was in development. It was under construction in Alachua County, Florida. Probably that one's been constructed, probably, right? Or
Alachua constructed it. Austin, Texas has constructed theirs. And in addition to Jacob speaking on the reuse corridor, Ruth Abbey is going to give a presentation on industrial parks across the country. And then a few other industrial parks are going to report too. So this is a great introduction to what we call now resource recovery parks. They're called recycling market development zones, but basically they're industrial parks for the right type of businesses to best handle our materials.
And just last question, and then I'm going to let somebody else talk. What type of materials are we talking about being recycled, reused at these parks?
Well, reuse is everything. As Manna pointed out, John Wackman and his Elizabeth Knight did an incredible job at the state of the art. That was a couple of years ago, but the state of the art has continued to grow with street swaps, fix it, all kinds of things. That's what you need to invest in. They're very cheap. The impact is incredible. It's a social experience as well as a recycling experience. People get trained on how to fix things themselves. It's quite a phenomenon. The other thing is that reuse. People get Resource Recycling Magazine. I have a piece in it in the April issue, March or April issue, on Minnesota reuse. And I don't have the numbers in my head, but the number of jobs, the number of materials diverted from the waste stream are incredible. The savings are incredible. Reuse is the best economic development activity you can have in your community, low cost, high dividend. The next best thing is distributed composting. Reuse is about 5% of your waste stream. Composting yard debris and food stuff is about 35 to 40. Do those two things and you're virtually halfway there. And these companies are locating in these recycling market development zones. The materials we're talking about are organics and the traditional recyclables, glass, metal, paper, and plastic. I'd also want to say that as the plastic companies are gearing up to sell incineration, the number of investments in mechanical plastic recycling are soaring. And that is not only for ones and twos, which have an industrial market, but 3s, 5s, and 7 through 9s. The 5s are polypropylene, which is very valuable. And in fact, the reuse corridor has an international polypropylene recycler building a plant in Ohio. And the other is film plastic. The film plastic investment in recovering film plastic and making new products out of it is soaring. And it's a very interesting thing because since the China debacle, when they cut off our imports because our stuff was so sloppy, 2018, the investment in US domestic end-use capacity, paper, plastic, electronic scrap, has soared $5 billion at least. There are paper mills built or being built all over the country. There's really I call it the second recycling revolution, the first in the late 60s, early 70s. Then we suffered for 20 years from 2000 to 2020 with stagnation, no growth, actually decline. And now we're bursting back. There's new energy in recycling and these new technologies and new markets. And we're finding out what the real cost of incineration is in Baltimore. Mike Ewald's group, Dante Swinton, did the research. $55 million a year that people, city, public and private, are paying because of the health impacts of the incinerator in downtown Baltimore. And that's very well documented. The number of visits to the hospital room by kids with asthma, number of work lost, school lost, etc. Dante did a very thorough job. It sounds like we're moving in the right direction, but we're not, because the plastic industry is going great guns to build these pyrolysis plants. They want to pass this EPR bill in New York, among other places, that will give the plastic industry control over all of recycling, which means they're going to be building incinerators in every town, small town, modest town, I should say, in the country. And burning plastic is, of course, the worst thing you could do in terms of climate change.
Is there anybody in the New York State legislature who's trying to make that legislation the right way? So the plastic industry.
Judith Inc. In fact, there's a call tonight at 7 p.m. I'll send Joel the URL. Her group, Beyond Plastic, is fighting the bill. It's a very bad bill. She is working with people in this New York Assembly to put together a better bill. And I also point out that in Hawaii, State Senator Laura Ocasio, O-C-A-S-I-O, has put together a EPR bill that has no PRO, there's no corporate control. I believe it's a model bill. Although I want to say that the bill coming out of Judith Enck's group is also very good because it keeps the money and the control away from the big corporations, and it requires oversight. I don't think, I think it's better not to create a problem to have to oversee than to create it and oversee it. I think Einstein, yes, Einstein, a smart person solves the problem, a genius avoids the problem. There's a lot of good activity going on, and you're all, the meeting tonight is open to all. And I'll get Joel the URL if people want to join.
I may join that here in Oregon from 2,500 miles away. I've been talking too much. Doreen, Mom, Pamela, Gina, Manna, anything else?
All right, Joel, this is Doreen, since no one else jumped in. So one of the things in the plan, it's really hard to figure out what the recycling rates are, but I did look at there was in 2017, the Dutchess County, the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Dutchess County, they prepared a study, the organics recycling study for Dutchess County. And in it, they said that the county, and again, this was 2017, the county's goal was to reach a 60% recycling rate by 2022. Now, if you look in the draft LSWMP, it says that the 2020 recycling rate was only 35%. And even if you discount the year 2020 because of the pandemic, if you look at the 2019 rate, they talked about 44% recycling. So again, that's far short of their 60% goal, and the 60% recycling rate, again, was in the 2017 study. So it doesn't seem like they've had a lot of progress. But in that same,
excuse me, Doreen, let me just address that quickly, because we're dealing with Montgomery County, and the reason why the county exec wanted us to give him a fresh look was because he didn't trust the numbers from his own DEP. And the DEP reported to him that they were at 60% recycling. And we looked at those numbers, and 20% of that is ash going for landfill cover. So the real rate was 40%, but they were claiming 60. So that's why I don't know the real number. If they say 44% and they're counting ash and other things, who knows what the real rate is? I just wanted to make that point. I'm sorry, Doreen.
No, that's okay. And the other point I wanted to make about that was also in this 2017 study, they said that the county could double the recycling rate if they diverted organics from the waste stream. So this was back in 2017. They came to, they had a number of recommendations. They did an in-depth analysis of the organic waste stream. They studied potential organic recycling technologies, business models that would be suitable for the county to use, locations for organics recycling facilities. And again, this was back in 2017. So the county doesn't appear to have done anything with that information. And now in the new plan, they say that they want to conduct a study. So they have a study from December of 2017 that basically they've, to me at least, it seems that they've ignored for the past 4 years. But yet they're willing to, it says they're willing to contribute to a study regarding feasibility and options of a compost facility. So really nothing's been accomplished since 2017. And, there's nothing to make me think that this study that they would be willing to contribute to would make any difference.
I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
My mom has raised her hand. Go ahead, Mom. That's Judy Malmstrom, AKA Breathe Free Dutchess @gmail.com. Neil, you're probably familiar with Breathe Free Detroit. I was like, there needs to be a Breathe Free Dutchess. So my mom was like, I'll do that. So anybody who emails breathefreeduchess@gmail.com. You'll get my mom, Judy Malmstrom. Go ahead, Mom. Mom. Wait a minute. I think I may have muted her because I heard some extraneous background noise. Now I have to try to unmute her. How very embarrassing. And I don't know if she knows how to do that. Oh, I've dug myself
Says
up.
that you have to do it, Joel. Says that you have to do it.
All right, we can hear you.
Okay. My question is concerning packaging and what are other places doing about handling that situation, you know, so that before it even comes into the county, and into people's homes. I mean, we're all handling all of this stuff, and I'm getting really tired of doing their work. They should have stopped years ago with packaging. So I'm kind of, you know, I want to know what's going on there and what we can do. I can't
Neil?
hear you.
You need,
Sorry about that. Two states are trying to do something directly. California, and then there's a federal law that we have to look at. California wants to tax plastic packaging, which is a good idea. And I could send you descriptions. It's a bill. And it didn't get through last year, but they're going to come back. Texas is planning, has the similar thing, a bill that would, it's like an advanced disposal fee. The bottom line is you bring in your plastic and you get money for it, a single-use plastic. So, and finally, the Federal Reduce Act, REDUCE Act, calls for a 20% tax on virgin plastic. This is what you need to do. Tax what you don't like, invest in what you like. What's the TIB? Ban what's dangerous and vote for people who want zero waste. TIBF, BV.
That sounds good.
Tax what you don't like, invest in what you like, ban what's dangerous, vote for the right people. And
it reminds me of what was it Hunter or Amory Lovins of the Rocky Mountain Institute used to talk about a fee bait. I don't know if they ever instituted in California, but it was like an extra sales tax on gas guzzling cars.
Yep.
And then it was supposed to be, you know, sales tax breaks on hybrids. But did they ever pass that law? I don't know.
That I don't know. I only deal with garbage, not energy.
And thank God we try to stop energy from being made by garbage.
Right, exactly.
David John Heller is part of the mix. Dave, did you want to say something? Or I don't know if Pam or Gina has gotten a chance to talk yet.
I would say that I have discovered this product called Biochar, which can be made from woody waste and even like some grasses and stuff. And it has incredible properties that can be used on farms to absorb farm animal waste and turn it into some of the most fertile soil in the world.
Yep.
And do you know about biochar?
I know about it. I don't know much about it, but I know that my colleague Brenda Platt, who is quite an expert on composting, is familiar with it. And you're right, it's an ancient technique that pays off big for agriculture, and it has sustained civilizations in the distant past.
So it would, I would personally like Dutchess County to start collecting yard waste, and like if they insist on having incinerator, let's turn it into a biochar.
Okay.
And the thing about biochar is that you can actually, when you're making the biochar, you're making a lot of heat, and that heat can go to generate electricity.
Exactly.
And
Is
so,
that feasible?
yes, absolutely.
Is it feasible to change the incinerator into something?
Oh,
That
I don't know.
I'm not.
What about the
expert on.
emissions? Like Mike Ewell of the Energy Justice Network, the one thing about Michael Moore's movie that I have a lot of problems with, he has some problems with, but biomass is not environmentally friendly. and of course Mike Ewald is a big associate of yours. So I don't know what biochar, but we just have to make sure that we're not putting a bunch of crap into the atmosphere while we're creating biochar.
Checking with Mike is fine, but burning biomass and biochar are two different things.
That's right.
So obviously, Dave knows
Dave.
that, but Mike, these are points that Mike can cover for you.
All right.
Well, I can tell you that for every pound of biochar you make, you take 3 pounds of carbon dioxide out of the air. And so when you stick that biochar in the ground, it is sequestered for thousands of years. So I think it's like one of the, these people who want to pump all sorts of carbon dioxide into, underground caves, I think is a dangerous solution, because if that gas escapes, you can kill a bunch of people. Whereas with biochar, it's long chains of carbon that hold tons of moisture, fertilizer. It gives places for microbes and fungi to grow, mycelium, and it, like I said, it's the terra preta down in the Amazon. It's the most fertile soil in the world, and we should get on it.
Can you do that at home? Can people do that at their homes?
I have a small stove that makes biochar. I've been making it
Okay.
like, it's not as efficient as some ways to do it.
Mhm.
The best way to do it is to do it in a kiln. That makes the best biochar, and it's the most efficient way. But
Mhm.
anyway, there's many different ways to make biochar, and I would think that our existing incinerator could probably be retrofitted to do something like that. I mean,
Is it biochar? Is that charcoal?
it's
Char-
similar to charcoal. Charcoal is made about 500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, because that's made in kiln.
Biochar is like 900 to 1100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mhm.
So what, and this is how the energy is made. Resins in the wood are evaporated. It's heated up, and the resins that are in the wood like come out of the wood. And it's done in an oxygen depleted environment. So the gases that are produced are released, and that's what burns to make the heat.
Hmm.
And you can boil water with it, you can do whatever, and then the carbon that's left, like I said, it's long chains of carbon, and a piece of biochar the size of an eraser head has 10,000 square feet of surface area, just to give you an idea of
Wow.
how magic this material is.
Hmm.
And it can be used for all kinds of, like, if you're have an upset stomach, you can eat some and it'll absorb toxins out of your stomach. Like if you go to the hospital because you drank something you weren't supposed to, they give you basically biochar, activated charcoal.
Like ivermectin. I'm just messing. Thank you, Dave. I'm gonna check out the biochar thing, and I'm gonna pass that along to folks I know. Pam, did you want to say something, or Gina, or Doreen, or Mom, or Manna?
This is
Hi,
Pam.
Tom.
Sorry.
This is Gina. I have not been involved directly with this issue in a long time. I saw this email and said, well, let me find out what's going on. I know that there are issues regarding the resource recovery and the incinerator that exists in Dutchess County. And I'm happy to hear that people are working on it, but I don't see too many folks on this call from Dutchess County. but I'm hopeful that there are people working on it. I would love to see this composting company that's working in Beacon expand to the rest of Dutchess. I've got my name on the list. I get their emails, but they haven't expanded. So I do my own composting. I'd much rather have somebody else doing it, but I do my own. I have so little garbage at this point that today was my garbage pickup day. I did not put my garbage can out because there's so little there. I don't even want the garbage truck to use gas to stop at my driveway.
Good for you.
Wow.
Yeah, we need some innovative thinking, but it's going to take people who are concerned, people who know how to relate to the powers that be, and getting a political person involved would probably be advantageous. And I have no idea where that all stands at this point in time in Dutchess County. But thanks for doing what you're doing.
All right, it's on you now, Gina. I know Doreen has her hand up, Manna has her hand up, but I know Pamela Lovinger a couple of minutes ago actually was about to say something. So let's go to Pam and then Manna and then Doreen. Go ahead, Pam.
I was going to say that I only read your email, Joel, about an hour before we started. So that might be the reason why there aren't a lot of people on this call. And I came here to get some information so I can write my letter by either today or tomorrow.
And if everybody on this call forwards the emails around, puts it on social media, it'll get around. Thank you, Pam, for joining us. I think Manna had her hand up and then Doreen.
Yeah, I just want to go back to composting for a minute and be sure everybody on the call knows that there is a New York State law that went into effect January, that all businesses that generate 2 tons a week or more of food waste, food scraps, have to either, send it for reuse if it's reusable by humans or animals, or compost it on site or at a site, or, at a processing facility, or anaerobic digestion. But it can't go to a landfill or an incinerator. And that includes Dutchess County and Westchester County. Westchester does have a composting facility, but one little part of that law is that you're exempt if there's not a composting facility within 25 miles of your where you generate the food waste, so that you're not shipping compost long distances. But what that will do is drive composting businesses to find a radius of 25 miles and locate a facility where they can get the material. So I don't know who the composting company in Beacon is, but there's a real opportunity for them to locate in several places in Dutchess County. And burning food waste is really one of the food waste and plastic really gum up the works. You have to add fuel because food waste is wet. And in terms of pollution, plastics are the worst. So, those are things that can and should be diverted, and we're all trying to figure it out. But we have some wonderful examples to learn from and copy. I just want to be sure everybody knew about the food waste diversion law, because it's not in Ulster County. We did away with the 25-mile limit. Every generator of 2 tons a week or more has to participate, and ours goes down So it's now 1 ton or 2 tons. Next year, it'll be 3/4 of a ton, and the following year, it'll be half a ton. And we'll have, 2 years of experience. But it has to be implemented. It has to be enforced. People have to be educated. But please know that that's a major step forward. So,
That is
I
big
just,
and major, and you just educated me. I had no idea that law was passed. So thank you, man. I did not know that. Now, actually, somebody sent an email around in the last day or two saying that, well, incineration by law is being phased out in New York State by 2030, but that's not true, is it? I mean, I wish it was, but that's not true, right?
well, if the standards are such that they can't meet the pollution control standards, that would phase it out. But I don't know of any other legislation that says that we have to phase out incineration.
If I could say, what is not happening is that there are no new mass burn incinerators being built. No community will stand for it anymore. Citizens are alerted to it. But what's happening is that they're putting in these new companies are coming in. They're taking garbage, they're shredding it and preparing what they call a refuse-derived fuel, which means the plastic, the organics, the paper are squeezed together into little pellets, and they sell it as a fuel pellet. And these are being burned in cement kilns, industrial boilers, and if the plastic industry has its way, they will build pyrolysis plants, small-scale pyrolysis plants, just to burn plastic. So the traditional battle against the big mass burn plants like Dutchess County has is over. We're trying, Mike and I and many others are trying to shut them down, Baltimore, Montgomery County, et cetera. There are about 50 left in the country. But the real threat is from these, let's call it decentralized incineration. And and again, check with Mike on the regulations, but I think these cement kilns that are burning this RDF are not subject to the pollution controls that we would like to see on garbage burning plants. So incineration is a very real threat. It's just taking a different form than it was for the past 30 or 40 years.
Thank you, Neil. And Neil, thanks for that link, the Bennington Zoom and the composting in Beacon. Thank you, Gina, for posting that as well. Is that the biochar maker? And then we have to go to Doreen. Dave, is that the biochar thingy?
This is the biochar stove. And,
Dave, did you make that yourself or you purchased it?
I got it for an amazing $200, and it's the best $200 I've ever spent in my life. And so this is the burn chamber, and you stick your fuel in here, and it it does pyrolysis, and you end up with it's about 1 liter of fuel you put in there. And depending on what you're burning or pyrolysizing, you get anywhere from ½ a liter to about 1/3 of a liter of biochar. And it's incredible. And you can do bone char, eggshell char. I use quite a bit of wheat pistachio nuts. So we get unsalted pistachio nuts and pyrolyze the shells. And
Hey, does it come out as a liquid?
no, comes out like this.
Okay,
Like almost like pellets, almost like pellets.
yeah,
Well,
looks like
these
little
were
soil
actual
pellets.
These were pellets that I burned. When I
Jeez.
bought the stove, it comes with actual pellets to do it, and they work well. And then I take a muddling stick and crush it just a little bit, and I mix it in with my compost, because the biochar is very much like a sponge or a battery, that if you stick it in your garden, it's going to suck all the nutrients out of the soil. So you want to charge it before you put it in your garden. Otherwise, you're actually the long-term effect will be like you're helping your garden out, but the short term is that it's going to suck all the nutrients and water out. So, and like I said, 1 pound of biochar, 8 pounds of water. It will suck that up. And so they're at the city of Minneapolis has their own biochar operation where they take yard waste and turn it into biochar, and they use the biochar in their parks to help with things like flood control and stuff, because like I said, the biochar absorbs so much water. And it also, they don't have to water their parks as often with the biochar in the soil. So it's like, it's win, 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 win.
Thank you, Dave. I'm gonna look into that. Doreen, did you have your hand up a few minutes ago?
Yes, I did. So what Manna was talking about the food waste law. So that is mentioned in this plan, and that's what part of where the county says that they welcome an entity building an additional compost facility. So, but Manna, what is the incentive for some entity to build such a facility in Dutchess County if right now they're exempt from the requirement because there isn't one within 25 miles?
Well, if they build it, then there is one, and all of those food waste generators would use it or compost on site or one of the other alternatives that I mentioned. They
Well,
will not be exempt once a facility is built.
Right, but okay, maybe I'm not making myself clear here. So the county is saying that they would welcome some other entity to build a compost facility. They're not saying they would. It says they welcome an entity to build it. And I was just wondering who would come forward to build something like that if the county doesn't want to do that.
If the county put out an RFP saying that they wanted such a company to come, they would get a response. And if they wanted to dangle an incentive, they could pledge some of their Build It Back Better money that's coming from the feds for solid waste management. And they could use that as a total or partial inducement for a company to expand into your area, or for the compost companies that are there. I know Shabazz has a company, and this woman-owned company that I just see from Community Compost. Those two companies could take advantage of such a program if the county wanted to allocate some money, and it would be terrific for their source reduction program.
Okay, yeah, and as far as Shabazz from Greenway Solutions, years ago, he and Josephine, I forgot her last name, they came before the town of Poughkeepsie board, and it seemed like all the pieces were in place for them to have a composting facility for organics. I think they were going to start with just yard waste, and it seemed like everything was in place. All the board seemed in favor, and then something happened behind the scenes, and they basically dismissed the project. They never brought it forward.
Oh.
And I think it could have had something to do with the person who had the contract now for all of the town's leaf removal, yard waste, things like that. So an attempt was made here in the town of Poughkeepsie to do something like that. And Shabazz and Josephine came to a number of meetings, and like I said, everything really looked great. And but in the end, it didn't materialize.
Yeah, that's too bad. I haven't talked to them in a couple of years, so I don't know what the latest is.
Yeah, this was many years ago, and it was quite a lucrative contract that the person has right now to remove the leaves. And so, but that was unfortunate.
Yeah,
They're doing very well in Ulster County. They service SUNY New Paltz. which has been diverting food waste really to an nth degree. It's unbelievable to watch the students, and they've gotten rid of all the disposable. They have refillable containers in their cafeterias that the students rinse out and return and get a sterile one for takeout. And it's an amazing program. And they have lots of other customers here in Ulster County and Clintondale. And the other company, I believe, is called Community Compost, that Eileen Benira is running. And so they tend to each have a different corridor. Eileen is in the western part of the county, and Greenway is in the eastern part of the county. And then in the northern part of the county is the UCRA composting facility. And also the town of New Paltz has its own composting facility. But the more distributed they are, the less we're depending on transportation, and transportation has its climate impacts.
Sure.
Gina, you had your hand up?
Sorry?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
So far as composting, I do not understand with this new law why community composting is not doing something in Dutchess County. There's got to be a reason, because they're already operating in Beacon. The other thing, you're talking about the colleges. When Shabazz was at Vassar, at the Vassar Farm site, he was getting great cooperation from Vassar College. And I think they are still doing something regarding recycling or composting. I don't know what. The other thought, I don't know if you're aware of this. This was many years ago, and I don't know what they're still doing with it. But the city of Poughkeepsie had leaf composting, where they would collect the leaves, they composted them. If I remember correctly, it was somewhere on College Hill, and people who lived in the city could go over there and get compost for free at no cost.
Yeah.
I don't know whatever happened to any of these things. Thank you.
These, I'll just say, these are the things that should, your 10-year plan or whatever plan they came up with, these are the things that they should be nurturing. These small scale things that can grow, or just stay small scale, because you want to pick the waste stream apart. If you pick it apart, you can deal with it. If it's all one lump, you have to burn it or bury it.
Thank you, Neil. I got a question. The Warren County, probably, I'm guessing been working with Tracy Frisch. I
Yes.
saw something, there was a webinar, and I see you'd written something up in preparation for those remarks, but you mentioned over an hour ago, and thanks to everybody for still being on the Zoom call, direct marketing to mills. Is there any chance you could help activists in Dutchess County or Ulster County with direct marketing?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're calling up all the paper mills and the plastic processors in the region, going down to all the way out to Syracuse. We're going down to Pennsylvania, and we're getting the specifications, like the paper processor, the paper mill in the Syracuse area says, look, you get all your mixed paper baled, you get all your corrugated baled separately, and you put it on, you get us a 20-ton load, and we'll send our truck to get it, and we'll pay you for it. Right now, if you're in Warren County, you have mixed recyclables. They get sent down to Albany at over $100, and then you have to pay over $100 to process it, probably close to $150. So we're bypassing all of this shipment by setting it up, a direct marketing called cooperative marketing. The other thing is that every town can get on, every town, we're dealing with Warren County, although it could be done in any county. If you're in Warrensburg and you get your stuff picked up, or Chestertown, it all goes to the mill under one contract. You're getting the mill price instead of paying the processing price. And the difference is tremendous. And the communities up there, they're low income, mostly low income, small budgets. this is a way to relieve their waste budget, solid waste management budget. And I said before, there's one company, the name of the company is Replenish, Replenish, Replenish is the name of the company. They do not charge a dime. The name of the owner is Mark Armen, Armen. I'll send Joel his contact. He works with schools, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, to set them up, to do the source separation, and he arranges for the trucks to come get it, and he gets paid by the companies that want the material to make acceptable packaging. So the community, the town, the community groups don't have to pay anything. And I will, he made a presentation, Mr. Armen made a presentation to us in Warren County, along with the state agency at Syracuse University. Kathy Walker, I think, is in charge of it. And he answered all their questions and everyone was very pleased. I suggest you invite him, and I'll of course send you his contact to give a presentation, because it's an immediate impact and of getting more materials out of your community, but it also energizes the community groups, because let's say you have a church and you want to do a drive, you motivate your congregation to bring in the stuff and tell their kids to and so forth, and it has ripple effects in the community. So
When you said, Neil, when you send it to Joel, would you CC me?
of
Because
course,
this is exactly what we need for the zero waste plan that
right. Yeah,
we're developing.
yeah,
And I just want to say that plan, what happened was the UCRA paid a consultant to do a local solid waste management plan.
Mhm.
It has a lot of lip service to waste diversion, but it has very specific implementation for landfill and solid waste, but very little implementation for waste diversion. So the legislature passed the plan with the understanding that we would develop a zero waste implementation plan as a companion document. And that's what we're in the middle of right now.
great. Thank you for that update. And yes, Manna, I'm sending the Replenish contact to you and Joel. I don't have anyone else's email, but I'm sure you'll share it with everyone on the call.
I will, yep, I'm gonna share everybody's contact information with one another, unless you tell me not to do that. I will be sharing everybody's contact information with one another. And don't forget, by the way, what is it again? Sunday, April, and I wrote it down. Mike Ewald is going to be doing a webinar with me, and he's going to have updated figures on just how toxic and polluting the Dutchess County incinerator is. That's going to be Sunday, April 10th in the afternoon. So please put that on your calendars.
Joel, and if you would, this is a really valuable recording that you've just made. And once that's posted, you know, hopefully on a YouTube site or an easy site to access.
I'm gonna post it to Facebook, and I'm also gonna try to upload it to YouTube and send you the link.
Okay, because I'll share it with you know, this increasingly large group of people who are engaged in trying to maximize waste diversion here.
And there's only 8 people on the call, and 3 of us are not from Dutchess County, but that means that five of you are from Dutchess County. Pressure's on you guys now. And that sounds like my mother's dog. That sounds like Finster.
She wants to go out, but I have one comment to make. My town has a transfer station for, I don't know what, $3 a bag. You can bring garbage. All recyclables are free. They have a whole container full of paper and cardboard, one, and then a separate one for cardboard. Now, recently, I took a subscription of picking up garbage because I have a lot of stuff right now to get rid of. It's the same company that does the town dump pick up the transfer station, the paper. However, they do cardboard. They will not do paper.
Hmm.
Isn't that interesting? There's, if you put a bag of paper, they'll throw it in the garbage.
Well, corrugated is worth more than mixed paper, that's true. But mixed paper is still valuable. And I know,
Yeah.
I just sent the contact on Replenish. I know they want baled mixed paper.
Yeah,
So that's at least one market that you have for that material.
I don't understand it. And I don't think people know it.
Mm,
I don't think
It's
they
a-
know that it's not being collected and used.
yeah.
It's also illegal in New York State, and there are certain regulated recyclables, and
Ah.
there does
Interesting.
have to be an economic market, but as Neil said, there is an economic market.
Right,
So
right.
putting recyclables in the trash is illegal, but people have to be aware of that. And in Ulster, they did hire a compliance officer, and we just hired an administrative hearing officer. So hopefully the compliance officer will get out there and initially do education, but if people are still resistant, then there are laws and fines that can help get the good behavior.
Amen. Okay, if we'll all hold hands now. Kumbaya.
It looks like Dave has a question.
Dave has his hand up. I'm sorry, Dave.
My question is, when you say the 20 tons of corrugated cardboard, when I lived in the Bay Area, people who collected cardboard to sell, they would water it down before they put it in. So is that 20 tons wetted down, or is
Not wetted down. That's kind of cheating. I actually saw that in South America, where the waste pickers want to get a little bit more money for their corrugated, so they wet it down. But that's cheating. It's clever, but it's cheating. Actually, I've seen people hide bricks in their corrugated to get more weight. So
wow, that's really cheating.
so it happens.
Okay, I was just curious because
We're talking about dry tons.
Anything else for the good of the order? All right, well, Doreen Tignanelli, thank you for passing along to me the email from Joanna Fowler yesterday morning, and then I reached out to Neil, and I think it's maybe this morning, and so everything happened very quickly. Thank you, Manager Green, and my mom for making me, and Gina Klein, and Dave Heller, and Doreen, and you, Neil, and everybody. Pam, your camera's on. Do you want to say something, Pam? Uh-oh.
I put it on to say goodbye when the time comes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good to see
I'll stay in
everybody.
touch. Good to see everybody.
Say
nice
goodnight,
photo,
Gracie.
Gina.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Love
All
you.
right, I'm
Bye-bye.
gonna upload it. Bye.
Thank you, Joel.